and continue to look farther up the street to see if anything else could be rolling on through there. I'm actually watching a dumpster on wheels coming right down Canal Street. There's a, I don't know if you can see this, Rodney, you can come up if you can. There's a dumpster in the middle of Canal Street. New Orleans PD is trying to attend to it, but and push it out of the main part of the street, but there's a dumpster on wheels being blown by these winds here right down Canal Street. We're going to try to get a better angle here, but we're also trying to keep my crew dry and to make sure the equipment works, so we can keep bringing these pictures here. But yeah, that's the dumpster. Not quite sure where it's coming from, but it's definitely trying to come up Canal Street. So they're trying their best to keep folks out here. Fortunately, we don't see too many people out and about, but Hurricane Zeta approaching New Orleans as we speak. We'll have more coverage right after this. Welcome back to the Weather Channel. Welcome back to the Weather Channel. We're still dealing with the onslaught of the eye of Hurricane Zeta here in New Orleans. Winds are howling out here. And by the way, there's a kind of a trolley shelter here. Don't know what happened, but something shattered one of the pieces of glass there. So there's a shelter down there, but it's too broad to kind of take shelter. So one of my safest places out here in the middle, and just dealing with a little shelter by this land post. But we're now in that northern eye wall of Hurricane Zeta making landfall here. It's the first time in years that we've had landfall here in New Orleans. And this, the wind, is going to be the biggest damage maker here. Of course, we're concerned about flooding, but it's moving so fast, the rain won't be an all-night event. It's the wind, which is going to be the strongest over the next hour as that landfall passes. Then a lull in the wind, and then the backside of the eye wall comes through as well. National Hurricane Center is urging people here in New Orleans to don't go outside when they hear the wind die down, because that is the center of the storm, and the storm is moving very quickly. So while you're outside enjoying the lull in the winds, the backside comes quickly on with winds just as strong as the front side of the wind, just coming from a different direction here on the backside of the storm. So it continues to be an onslaught of the wind and the rain here in New Orleans. I'm sure our rainfall is well over an inch, inch and a half at this point, but these winds, I haven't heard the latest report from the airport, but just down here, I've been feeling definitely close to hurricane force wind gusts here on Canal Street. And there are other areas dealing with even stronger winds across Jefferson or Orleans Parish. Power outage numbers are well over 35,000, but you got to remember, those are billing points. If you have 2 or 3 people in your family, that's considered a billing point. Fortunately, I have a helmet on to protect me from part of this palm tree that just fell in front of me here. And those power outage numbers will most likely continue to increase as these winds are increasing with this eye wall. New Orleans dodged a lot of tropical threats so far this season, and you are taking it on the chin right now with Hurricane Zeta slashing this area. It definitely is the typical 2020. Didn't think it'd get this bad here. A lot of people are always concerned about the flooding here in New Orleans. They don't think about this wind threat. So I'm hoping people were taking down the lawn furniture and many of the decorations that I've seen up in neighborhoods for Halloween. And the good news is the Halloween forecast, well, in that case, tomorrow's forecast looks really nice, but we got to get through the rest of this evening and the rest of the front side of Zeta and then the back side of Zeta before we can start the recovery here in New Orleans. And Hurricane Zeta is a Category 2 hurricane right now, but I tell you what, I couldn't imagine what the residents in southwestern Louisiana went through with Hurricane Laura as a Category 4. Mike Bettis, you've been through a Category 3 and 4, and these are pretty tremendous winds we're dealing with. And how close is that center? How close are we going to start seeing a little reprieve in these gusty winds?
Paul, you're not far. You're not far, my friend. Hang in there. The worst of it is happening for you right now. The most intense squall line is happening right now, and I think in the next maybe 20 minutes, you're going to start to see your winds really back off as the northern part of the eye starts to come in for you. Officially, wind gusts at 48 miles an hour with the last observation, but we're getting winds that are being recorded now at 110 miles an hour by some personal weather stations in the eye wall of this hurricane. Paul's sitting right here in New Orleans, right? You can see where the eye is. It is not that far away. We're going to get some, maybe even a little bit of clearing here, but only 28 miles from New Orleans is where the eye is now. I think less than an hour, we're going to start to see the winds really back off here, and we're going to see improving conditions at least temporarily. Then we'll deal with the backside of the system. There's a look. We've got a tornado watch that's in effect. New Orleans, extending through portions of Alabama, through portions of Mississippi, and up the panhandle of Florida. These are all areas where severe weather could then be a threat for you in some of these bands. We're now starting to see some storm surge flooding here. Nothing extreme right now. That's good to report. 1.3 inches, New Canal Station, Shell Beach, about 0.8 feet of water rise for us here, but we think that the storm surge potential could really go up here, and we think in particular here in coastal Mississippi, a very flood and surge prone coastline here. 7 to 11 feet of storm surge is possible above dry ground. In portions of Alabama, 3 to 5 feet of water rise is possible for us here. You can take a look at the latest wind speeds. Boy, the winds are really now howling for us really strong out of the southeast, but they're only going to pick up for us over the course of the next, say, hour or so. For Louisiana, already the power outage is going up as a result of the winds. Louisiana right now, 60,000 customers are without power. You can see the intensity of the winds here with the forecast hour by hour, stepping it through New Orleans, then Gulfport, Bay St. Louis, Biloxi, then eventually north of Mobile, racing through then Alabama and Georgia as the winds back off. By the morning hours, just breezy. But right now, landfall of Hurricane Zeta would take you back to New Orleans after this.
Welcome back to the Weather Channel. We are still dealing with the landfall of Hurricane Zeta, and here in New Orleans, we're dealing with that eye wall coming on through here. I've come a little closer to a little shelter to get out of some of the brunt of the wind, but it's still howling here. You can see the debris kind of blowing and the wind blowing as well. Winds easily have been gusting hurricane force. We're talking 75 miles per hour plus across the region. We've seen a lot of things blowing around here. A dumpster was blowing on wheels. We've seen even shelters here by the trolley, some of the broadsides of the glass shattering. Don't know whether it's just the pressure from the wind or perhaps pieces of debris hitting them as well. So it continues to deal with the strongest part of Hurricane Zeta right on through New Orleans, and this is something that a lot of people didn't really think about. They thought about, oh, the rain, oh, it's just a Category 1, we'll be okay, it's moving fast, but it's a Category 2 hurricane now, and the winds have already knocked out power to probably close to 100,000 people here. We're talking 36,000 customers between Jefferson and Orleans Parish, and that number is actually old. I'm pretty sure the updated number is even higher than that now, and it continues to be the biggest threat here are these winds, bringing down things like trees and power lines and power poles. And unlike other cities, this city is sitting below sea level, so you can't quite put the power lines underground. So they're above ground and they're very vulnerable to dealing with trees coming down and power poles coming down as well. Power crews are standing by, like they have done in the previous hurricanes and tropical storms making landfall here in the U.S. Now this is the fifth named system making landfall just here in the state of Louisiana, the 11th across the U.S. here just this hurricane season, and we're still dealing with some more as well. So some people perhaps trying to venture out, but I'm staying close because it's just not that safe to get out there. And by the way, the National Hurricane Center is urging people here in New Orleans to basically hunker down, even though the winds will start to die down as we get into the actual eye, the center of Hurricane Zeta. The winds will definitely start to lax, but that's because the backside is coming. When that backside comes through, you can see winds as strong as the front side coming through as well. So we're in the thick of this for quite some time, and we do think that center is probably the eye minutes away from getting here, which is something we can look forward to, because once we get through the center, we can count down when this entire system will start leaving this city, and we can start recovering from this. So again, the winds here, definitely something that's surprising a lot of people, especially with the strengthening of this. You got to remember, at landfall, Hurricane Zeta was 110 miles per hour, so just a few miles per hour short of being a major hurricane. We've already had Hurricane Laura make landfall here, and even here in Louisiana, there's still over 3,000, in New Orleans, over 3,000 people who are living here because their homes aren't livable yet in southwest Louisiana because of Hurricane Laura. But this continues to be a wind event here. Other areas along the Gulf Coast, storm surge is going to be a big concern. I know Jim Cantori is in Biloxi, Mississippi, and Jim, that area devastated by Katrina. They have a lot of memories there as well, and you talk about a hurricane and a storm surge, that's always a concern for those people there in Biloxi.
Paul, Cristobal came in about where this one came in, a much weaker storm, produced storm surge back here where I am. Okay, so we know the water's going to come up here. It's just a matter of time. We're at the Port Cadet Marina, as you can see behind me here. All the boats are gone, as they've been asked to do. This is the 5th time in 10 weeks that mariners have had to do this. I see one boat that is out there right now, okay, and that's not going to fare very well, especially given the fact that we have a storm surge forecast of 7 to 11 feet. So I'm watching where Justin is at Bay St. Louis. Things haven't changed all that much. This is probably our heaviest rain, okay? The problem is it's about the water here. It really is, and the gusts as we get into the eye wall a little bit later on. But I want to kind of give you the lay of the land. We are right behind the Golden Nugget here, which is where the marina is. And unfortunately, this is a pretty low spot. So Biloxi's like a peninsula. It comes right down to Biloxi Bay and then goes back, if you will, to Safe Harbor, which is where a lot of the boats go. They call it Hurricane Hole back there. But unfortunately, this is so low. And there's so many parking garages that are kind of down here. You got to wonder, you know, is some of these cars going to eventually suffer a little bit of this salt water, especially with the kind of inundation. We've got a camera. We've got an exclusive storm path camera back here. So when we leave and the water comes up, that camera will show what's going on back here. All right. Of course, it'll be after dark. So everybody just needs to hunker down, not only in Louisiana, but also in Mississippi. Zeta, 5th landfall in Louisiana. Unbelievable season. Unbelievable.
All right, I brought in Ensure Max Protein
to give you the protein you need with less of the sugar you don't.
Welcome back to our coverage of Hurricane Zeta making landfall, that eye getting closer and closer to New Orleans. I'm here on Canal Street, and we're still getting pretty strong gusty winds. I know close by some of the measuring stations are over 80 miles per hour, and even here, easily getting hurricane force wind gusts for quite some time. We have not been kind of in a lull in the wind for quite some time. The eye is getting closer and closer. So we're still about 20 minutes away from that eye. When it gets here, we'll definitely breathe a sigh of relief, because we're going through the strongest winds right now. You can see how the winds are whipping the rain right down the street. The power outages continue to grow here across this part of southeast Louisiana. Just in Jefferson and Orleans parishes, 40+ thousand customers now without power here. as some of the strongest wind gusts are still lashing this area. Hurricane Zeta continues to move at a pretty good clip. In fact, it's accelerating, which is some great news in terms of the duration that we have to deal with this type of wind. The bad news is all that does is kind of increase some of the wind gusts as it comes through. So if the storm is moving 30, you can add some of the winds probably starting at 30 and going stronger than that across the area. And this being a tropical system, the rain with this system is filled with a lot of small droplets, almost like needles being whipped by this rain here. And I'm fairly protected where I'm standing. If I was farther out towards the middle where the trolleys go, I don't think I could stand up or even talk very easily here. So looking on the radar, you can see we still have a little chunk of that red, the orange and yellows to get through, and then we get into that center. Because this thing is moving so fast, I doubt we'll see a clear eye. Most likely definitely some clouds, maybe even some rain in there as well, but at least the winds will start to diminish temporarily. And I'd also, let's pull up our storm path camera on Lake Pontchartrain by the lighthouse, the New Canal Lighthouse there. You can see how the winds are now creating waves lashing the shoreline here. And those are the winds basically coming over the entire lake. Nothing is slowing it down. At least here in downtown New Orleans, you got buildings somewhat breaking up the wind as it comes down to the surface there, but the winds are howling and pushing some of that water right over onto Lakeshore Drive as well. The good news is the number of hours in this, they're ticking down, but we still have to get through this and into the eye at the backside of this storm. Woo. Hurricane Zeta continues to lash New Orleans, and I'm trying to keep my head in the swivel. There's so many noises you hear here. We're close to sunset, so fortunately the eye should be coming through just as it starts to get dark here, and weather should be slowly improving as we head towards midnight. But we have a very long stormy evening. The closer it is, but we're not seeing any abatement in this wind as of now, but that eye could not come anytime soon. Mike?
All right, Paul, thank you so much for the update. Hang in there, friend. Getting hit really, really hard right now. You know, making official landfall of Zeta. About the 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Central Time hour, we had winds 110 miles per hour. It's a fifth named storm that we've had so far this season in Louisiana. Northeast movement at 24 miles per hour for us right now. And we're going to see this thing accelerate as we go through the evening tonight. Again, you're looking at live pictures here of the eye wall of Zeta over New Orleans right now. That is Lake Pontchartrain. You can see the waves that are really crashing up over the seawall at this point. But it's going to be a short-lived event, we think. Again, that's our Paul Goodlow out there on Canal Street. He's in downtown New Orleans. Then you're looking north side up at Lake Pontchartrain there. We're going to get back to Paul here in a little bit. Give the guy a breather. He has been out there just getting hammered here, and we're going to end up getting an eye here soon in New Orleans. Let me show you what is going on right now with the hurricane. We've got a 110-mile-per-hour hurricane with a fast movement here, and we're going to be likely looking for this storm to accelerate and push its way off to the northeast here pretty quickly tonight. So again, we're going to get hit hard, and then it's going to move out because by tomorrow morning even, it's across central Alabama, then racing through Georgia and the Carolinas, making landfall. And near Cocodrie here at Category 2, 110 mile per winds, between 4:30 and 5 o'clock this afternoon. The fifth landfalling storm in Louisiana this season. That is a record. The previous record was 4. You take a look at the radar. Boy, that thing is moving quickly. Again, made landfall back here about an hour and a half ago or so. Now almost into New Orleans. That eye is almost over New Orleans. We'll be taking a direct hit from this. The northern eye wall has been hitting us. But again, we're less than 20 20 miles now. Things moving so fast, keep having to update the ruler there. But you can see that's the last really intense band that comes through New Orleans, and then the eye wall goes north, and the eye comes in for you. Slidell along I-10 to Gulfport, Biloxi, and Pascagoula getting hit with a really intense rain right now. Louisiana, your power outage is going up exponentially now. 108,000 customers without power. We're back with more Zeta coverage after this.
Our continuing coverage of Zeta here, guys, from Biloxi, Mississippi, behind the Golden Nugget. Pretty much right here at the marina. Haven't seen much water rise here, at least in the last hour since we started. It's up about a foot and a half. Bay St. Louis now up around 2 feet. But we just had a heck of a squall come through here. And holy smoke, winds very, very gusty. But nothing like what they're dealing with the eye wall in New Orleans. I want to bring in Paul Goodloe because he's really dealing with the teeth of this thing right now. Paul, let's talk about this and what you've gone through certainly during the last hour and how things may be changing as we speak.
Yeah, I'm hoping, Jim, that we finally get that center. We've been dealing with very strong gusty winds. Some of those intense rain bands have the most strongest winds in there, so the winds easily gusting 80+ miles per hour. We have these kind of shelters for the trolleys. Glass has been shattering from them. Not sure if it's just the wind itself, because the wind has a weight and a pressure that it can break and shatter that like it has, or it could be perhaps pieces of debris coming on through here. We've seen parts of street signs. We've also seen a dumpster on wheels being blown down the road with these gusty winds here. And this is Canal Street, one of the widest roads here, but there are many narrower streets where I'm sure that wind is getting funneled and accelerated through there. And the power outage numbers continue to grow. We're well over 100,000 customers just in the state of Louisiana. And think about a customer in terms of a household, not just people, but households. So easily, it's an easy estimate would be maybe 500,000 people. They're going to saw the power kind of flash here or flicker. So power outage is one of the biggest concerns here. And now I'm here being told 86,000 alone here in Orleans Parish, where the city of New Orleans is. So the city, about close to 400,000 residents. So you can easily say maybe close to 200,000 people without power, Jim, just in Orleans Parish. And we still have the rest of this front side of the eye wall and the back side to get through this evening. Jim?
Paul, I can't believe that the shot that you have off of the west side of Lake Pontchartrain. I mean, that's about as, that's about as big a wave action as you find in the Atlantic Ocean with a big coastal storm there. You keep pointing out that camera, which is obviously why we're not there. But that's just incredible. Talk about when you set that up and what it was like. It was probably calm. I mean, you've been on Lake Pontchartrain on a calm day where it's like glass out there.
It is. We were there last night. It was kind of choppy. There were still some people learning how to sail, so it wasn't rough in terms of they couldn't do that. But the thing is, Jim, that camera is not on the west side of the lake. That's on the south side of the lake. It's by the New Canal Lighthouse. So the west side has been getting pummeled by this east wind all day long. So I'm sure they have huge waves and a huge rise in that water. But even there in the South Shore, we've been dealing with water up and over onto Lakeshore Drive. Our storm tracker Charles Peak, he was over there. He decided when the water's getting too close to the road and perhaps threatening his car, he got out of there. So that was a little while ago. So imagine what it looks like now as we have the strongest winds creating those waves over there. And then we have the eye come through, and then we have the wind shift direction. So some areas where perhaps they've seen the water kind of recede, it can come sloshing back as those winds change direction. And that's what we're in through the rest of this evening here. And the only good news I can see is I can see actually farther down the road here. So perhaps we're starting to see the beginning of entering into this eye, and a little lax of the wind, hopefully, is in our imminent future here, at least here in Canal Street here in New Orleans. Jim?
Hey, Paul, you've been into this rain now for a few hours, and you know, as well as most people out there, that New Orleans sits below sea level, but they've got a pump system. It takes the water and pumps it out as it comes in, obviously. The whole thing would be underwater. Have you seen any kind of standing water where you are from your vantage point?
Canal Street is fairly elevated. You know, I have a drain right here, so I see water sloshing on through, but so far so good. But the biggest concern, Jim, as you mentioned with the pumps, is getting power. Make sure they have power. One of the big turbines, which helps to operate the pumps, is offline, and the Sewage and Water Board, they've made other precautions, and they brought in other generators to make sure they can continue to keep pumping the water out of the city. Like you mentioned, Jim, is sitting below sea level. So when you think New Orleans and hurricanes, you think Katrina, you think flooding disasters, but I think a lot of people are surprised by the strength of the winds here, and that winds with Zeta. It's a whole new memory now we're creating in New Orleans here in terms of potential storm damage with these Category 2 winds, which are lashing in New Orleans here. Again, it's been years since we had a direct hit with an eye. We're getting it right now here in New Orleans.
We are tracking Hurricane Zeta for you tonight. You're taking a live look at Waveland, Mississippi, where the storm surge has water up over the roadways, officially making landfall in southern Louisiana. It's a Category 2 hurricane with 110-mile-per-hour winds now racing its way through New Orleans. New Orleans about to enter the eye of the hurricane after being lashed with a northern eye wall and extreme winds. We've got you covered tonight here on Weather Underground following this storm. We're going to take you to New Orleans. We're going to take you to Mississippi tonight. We've got our Paul Goodlow. We've got our Jim Cantori tonight. Both of them watching the storm closely for you this evening to show you what's going to happen with the winds, with the storm surge, with the rainfall, and then where does it go from here? We still think it is an intense wind maker all the way through the Carolinas through tomorrow. We are anticipating extensive power outages. Let's get you to Storm Tracker Jim Cantori tonight. He is in Biloxi, Mississippi, where, Jim, things are about to go downhill very, very quickly.
All right. Yeah, guys, sorry, people keep driving by here, but, you know, talking to us, and sometimes I can't hear you back there, so I apologize, Mr. Bettis. We are at the Port Cadet Marina, as we talked about. Haven't seen the water, maybe a few inches from where we started about an hour ago here, but more importantly, Bay St. Louis now 2.3 feet. That's the surge. So they're starting to come up there. We're going to watch that. You saw the shot from Waveland, from Brett Adair's camera, okay, so you can see how high the water's got. But the whole Mississippi coast forecast here 7 to 11 feet. So it's going to come up in a big hurry. You're not going to believe how fast it comes up. And that's why we're going to retreat, okay? So we're right here at the water. Obviously not getting the waves here because you've got a seawall that's protecting the marina. All the boats, of course, leaving as of yesterday evening. They're in a place called the Hurricane Hole, which is up through Biloxi Bay and back up into the rivers where it protects the boats typically from the wave action and the wind as well. But here's what's going to be interesting as we get into tonight. You know, you've still got a few of these cars that are on this first floor here at the Golden Nugget. And I'm having to wonder, you know, if the water comes up 7 to 11 feet, heck, even half that, you know, we could be dealing with issues certainly down and through here with some of these automobiles. But we're going to retreat. You know, we've got to, this is a parking garage, so all we need to do is go up when the water comes in. But we wanted to show you the storm surge angle, certainly here in Biloxi. We're not going to likely get the kind of wind that they got in southern parts of Louisiana. Golden Meadows, for example, 105, 110 mile an hour in terms of the gust there. We may not get that here, but I was just looking at some of the data on the radar, and they're still, above the ground about 120 miles an hour in that eye wall. So does it translate down to the surface? That's obviously the million-dollar question, but some of it has, and a lot of it has already, especially in southern Louisiana. All right, guys, landfall as of about 2 hours ago. Let's go to Paul Goodlow in New Orleans. Paul, landfall to your south, storm center moving quickly off to the northeast. Have you seen any change? You should be getting into that eye here pretty soon.
Jim, we are in it. We are in the eye right now. The wind is much quieter than it has been. In fact, I can see farther some buildings here, some high rises that I couldn't see for the last hour and a half or so. And we're in that eye. Still some breezy conditions. We're not seeing the crystal clear eye because the storm is moving so fast. Plenty of cloud cover overhead and some rain falling. But we now survey some of the damage. This is some of the shelters here for the trolleys which run up and down Canal Street. Pretty thick glass here. This one is intact, but if you look just to the left here, that one is shattered. There is glass that actually come all the way across Canal Street with the strong gusty winds, easily at times gusting 70+ miles per hour coming on through here. So now we're starting to see, look, as far as you can see, pieces of debris, whether it's from this or from some buildings, some palm fronds. There's all types of debris here, but we're seeing the wind kind of die down temporarily. But unfortunately, we're seeing people out. They think it is over. It is not over because we still have the backside of this hurricane to get through. And we're just going to basically see the winds change direction and still be pretty intense as that backside comes through. So you can celebrate we're in the eye, but we're only at halftime. So this is when you get your popcorn and get ready for that backside of this hurricane, which hopefully won't be as intense. But we do expect the initial, maybe the first half hour to maybe hour of wind to be as intense as the front side. And as it quickly pulls away, we'll quickly start pulling some of the strongest winds away from New Orleans. And already just in Orleans Parish, more than 100,000 customers without power. That's probably closing in on maybe 300, 400,000 people in some parts of this parish without power. Just the city of New Orleans is close to 400,000 people here. So while we're starting to see halftime here and halfway through the impacts of Zeta, we're still getting impacts farther east. Let's head to Pascagoula, Mississippi, and Felicia Combs. And Felicia, you now are getting into some of those pretty intense rain bands. I'm pretty sure the winds are increasing there too.
Yeah, Paul, we've seen all of that, especially in the last hour here in Pascagoula, Mississippi. And this is kind of just just off to my left would be the main Pascagoula River. Behind me is Highway 90. You may notice behind me there is a boater. This is something we've been keeping an eye on. This is actually a boater who's stranded here right now. She's having motor issues, so they pulled her into the inlet to kind of protect her from some of the main risks of that storm surge and the main risks of that wind just being out in open water. So we're watching her, hoping that her anchor holds, but of course we're expecting these winds to just keep picking up. We are under a hurricane warning here in Pascagoula, and that's because we fully expect to see some hurricane strength winds. In fact, I'm expecting winds upwards of 70 miles per hour as we head through that 8 o'clock hour. A couple different things that we're worried about here in Pascagoula. Of course, all the Mississippi coast at this point to Dauphin Island, 7 to 11 feet of storm surge possible. So that's something that we are under that storm surge warning here for, and then the hurricane warning because we could see those hurricane force wind gusts, and certainly starting to see those winds pick up now. This is probably the strongest gust that we've seen thus far, and I think it's just going to get worse from here. Starting to see, of course, those tropical storm force winds at least. Now, in terms of rainfall, it's also just started to come down. We're about 3 miles south of the Trent Lott Airport, the Trent Lott International Airport, and it's reported about 0.7 inches of rain so far, but I'm waiting to see that next update come in because I guarantee we're going to see more of that coming in. So let's run down the different risks. We've got the hurricane warning here, the storm surge warning, the flood watch, but then we also have a tornado watch because we are on the dirty side of the storm. We talk about it a lot. When you're in that northeastern quadrant, you're getting the rotation of some of the winds. So we do have that tornado watch until midnight. So I can't stress enough, if you are in, say, the southern Mississippi area, if you're in Pascagoula, if you're in Ocean Springs, Biloxi, of course, have some way to make sure you're getting those alerts, because these tornadoes and these tropical systems, they spin up really quickly. Now, they might be a little on the weaker side, but they do spin up really quickly. So we're going to keep an eye on this. Now, where we are is really safe. I can't stress that enough. Of course, this area was hit really hard by Hurricane Katrina back in 2005, but the owner of the restaurant that we're at said in terms of the storm surge, we don't really have to worry about that so much here, even though we are right on the water. But of course, closer to the coast, that storm surge could really become a bigger problem. So, Jim, I know you're just about 20 miles to the west of me. I would imagine that we are experiencing a lot of the same pelting that's going on. And I can tell you, this has definitely picked up over the past, say, 10, 15 minutes or so, and I expect it to keep getting worse here in Pascagoula. I expect that we'll start to see those power outages climbing here in southern Mississippi pretty soon.
No question. We've had some what they call surges in the power lines, and we've had the surges on the transformers. And as that happens, you hear the explosion, you see the flash. Now, that's not a transformer blowing. That's actually a safety mechanism that trips the transformer so it doesn't damage the line. All right, so you want that to happen, certainly. Obviously, you don't want it to happen to lose power, but it's actually a safety mechanism. Guys, we're right at the Port Cadet Marina. I just wanted to come out here as long as we can because the water is now at kind of the top of the level of the walkway in through here. This is just one of several marinas here where they've obviously moved their boats the 5th time in 10 weeks, as a matter of fact. But the squall we went through earlier that actually caused that transformer to surge is what moved down toward Felicia. And so what we're watching now is what's happening where Justin is in Bay St. Louis, where the surge is up now to 2.3 feet. All right, so as it continues to come up, we're expecting 7 to 11 feet here, which is incredible. It's going to come up fast, guys. Trust me. Whether it's a Katrina or it's a Zeta, it's going to come up fast, and it's sloshing around through here. But 4 feet. Okay. Dills just tells me we got 4 feet now at Bay St. Louis. So it's going to come up fast here. It's going to start coming up here, and it's going to get over the walkway and obviously into the parking garage, the lower parking garage of the Golden Nugget, which we still have vehicles rolling around for whatever reason. I have no idea. But we can retreat. It's a multi-level parking garage, and we're going to be able to retreat here and obviously get to high ground. But we left a camera down here that's up above the forecast surge where we'll actually be able to, like Paul did, he can show you Lake Pontchartrain. We'll be able to show you what's happening back here, right off Biloxi Bay and right off the Port Cadet Marina in through here. So it's going to come up, and trust me, it's going to come up fast, just like it did certainly with Beta and Sally and Laura if you were in those surge zones. Forecast again, 7 to 11 feet coming up and through here. We've got a 105-mile-an-hour hurricane now with the latest advisory, so it's starting to come down. The winds are starting to come down, but it's starting to move a little bit faster. So it's moving northeast at about 25 miles per hour now. We're going to see that forward speed pick up a little bit. We're going to see the winds start coming down. But the problem is by time we roll into tomorrow morning, Alex Wilson, we're going to watch issues in Birmingham develop overnight and also Atlanta. We have tropical storm warnings there, and we are expecting winds that could be anywhere from 60 to 75 miles per hour. Just because the storm winds down doesn't mean we just lose the energy, as you know.
Totally. I think so many times people think, oh, okay, we've got the coast. And then once it hits the coast, that's where the worst of the weather is. And then it moves on. We're actually going to see some significant effects well inland. You got to look there at Atlanta. Even Crane there in the shot already starting to wiggle a bit given the increase of winds through the later part of today. But it's early tomorrow where we're really going to see those winds amplifying in North Georgia. Take a look at the likely power outages, or rather widespread. They extend all the way up into the upstate of South Carolina, Greenville, Spartanburg, getting into western North Carolina as well. So Gulf Coast all the way into the southern Appalachians, watching for the potential or likelihood, really, of widespread power outages. And here is the reason why. As Jim mentioned, places like Birmingham and Montgomery, Alabama, you're going to see those winds really begin to pick up as we head into the early morning hours of your Thursday. Could be looking at 60 to 75 mile per hour gusts there in Montgomery. Same for Atlanta. So we could be looking for strong tropical storm force gusts in a place like North Georgia, Birmingham Metro. That's going to topple trees, lead to those power outages. Think now, where is your bedroom? Where are you going to be in your house? Do you have a lot of trees around? Falling trees will be a real danger, both in your home and on your morning drive. So keep that in mind for the morning commute. 7 a.m. still gusty. Asheville, North Carolina picking up with winds gusting to around 50 miles an hour mid-morning. Late morning, now we get Raleigh and Columbia into the mix. Raleigh could be looking at 50 mile an hour gusts. Same for Richmond as we go through the afternoon. So it's a quick mover, but those winds will be packing quite a punch as the system moves through, even into late Thursday, remaining a little bit gusty. And of course, the rain coming with it. So heavy rain helping to loosen up the soils, allow those trees to topple. Let's get you a live look right now at Bay St. Louis. This in Mississippi. We take a closer look at some of the heavy rain coming down. And that's our crew. Man, it's a tough go out there. Brett Adair has been bringing us some of the views there from Bay St. Louis. A rain blowing sideways and similar scenes all across the Gulf Coast. Our Felicia Combs, meteorologist in Pascagoula this evening. Felicia, once again, you find yourself on a landfall on the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, and you know, it's just getting to be one of those things, Alex, where I know everyone here is tired of it. As meteorologists, we're like, man, this hurricane season just does not seem to end. And here's the thing about Zeta. It's going to be a rough one for areas that are still recovering from Sally. Of course, last month, Pascagoula maybe not seeing some of the worst impacts from Sally, but certainly had to deal with power outages and things of that nature. And I do think that's what we're going to be dealing with. Once again, I expect to see those power outages climbing as we head through the overnight. I just heard from our weather producer, Sarah, that we have now gotten up into tropical storm force gusts just about 3 miles north of us at the Trent Airport. 41 mile per hour gusts in the past hour. So that is tropical storm force. And it's only going to get worse from here. I'm expecting the worst for southern Mississippi, the Pascagoula area, to be as we head into, say, 7:30, 8, 9, 10 o'clock. As we head toward midnight, we'll start to see the conditions certainly improving, but it will still be breezy. So this is kind of just the beginning of it, guys, here in places like Pascagoula and Gulfport. And we are going to see this picking up over the next several hours. We've got a hurricane warning, a storm surge warning for the possibility of 7 to 11 feet. We've also got a flood watch, and again, we have a tornado watch. So several different threats that we're dealing with here. Where I am in Pascagoula, you'll see behind me, that is Highway 90. It runs along the stretch of southern Mississippi. This is an inlet of the Pascagoula River, and then off to my left is the main Pascagoula River that runs out into the Mississippi Sound. You've got the barrier islands like Horn Island south of us, and then out into the Gulf of Mexico. So islands like Horn Island experiencing certainly some of that storm surge as we head through the overnight tonight. And here's part of the other problem that's going to exacerbate the storm surge problem for this area. High tide around 11 o'clock tonight. So we experienced low tide a little more than an hour ago, and now we're going to see those tides beginning to rise as we get closer to high tide at 11 o'clock tonight. So storm surge is going to be really a problem as we head through the overnight hours, especially on those barrier islands that are south of places, especially for Beach Boulevard here in Pascagoula. Of course, we're going to be here through the duration of the storm for you, and we'll have more on Zeta coming up after the break.
To the landfall of Hurricane Zeta. It is now working its way through New Orleans, Louisiana, taking a direct hit there. Our crews are out there covering it for you this evening, and our Paul Goodlow is in New Orleans tonight, right in the center of it all, in the eye where the winds have gone calm tonight for us, Paul.
Yeah, it was like still for about maybe 10 minutes ago, Mike. I mean, barely a whisper of wind in here. A far cry from a little while ago. In fact, take a look at this video that when we're going through, and it went through the most intense part of Hurricane Zeta slamming New Orleans. Again, it's been years since we had an eye come over here. It's over here right now. No wind compared to easily 80-plus mile-per-hour wind gusts here. Even in downtown New Orleans, definitely a different picture right now. In fact, we also have a drone shot. I could pull that up of the sky. We're actually seeing a brightening of the sky. I can see for easily a couple of miles here, but you can see kind of the pink, kind of eerie glow of the sky of
see quite what you saw, but we are still going to see winds that are strong enough to do some damage, to cause some power outages, to put down some trees that are already vulnerable from the damage that they saw from Sally. So we are kind of in a little bit of a lull right now. We've got a little bit more of a band that's going to move through, and then we're going to have a bit of a lull in between those stronger bands. Here in Pascagoula, we'll still be getting some of that rain. And then I think as we approach the 7:30, 8 o'clock hour, we're going to be right in another one of those much stronger bands. Now, of course, it's not going to stop, but we are going to see waves of the stronger wind picking up. Now, the highest wind gusts that we've seen in the past hour or so, 48 miles per hour at the Trent Lott Airport just to the north of us. I want to talk to you a little bit about the different risks that we have here. You can see the tree behind me, this tree kind of blowing around. One of the risks is going to be those down trees, those power outages as we head through the overnight. So keep that in mind. And then also storm surge. We are in the area here in Pascagoula that the forecast is for 7 to 11 feet. Places like Beach Boulevard in Pascagoula could certainly be seeing some of that storm surge. The barrier islands, the Mississippi, Alabama barrier islands like Dauphin Island, like Horn Island, certainly going to be dealing with that possibility for some intense storm surge as we're dealing with this onshore flow. But then also the hurricane force wind gusts certainly can't be ruled out, especially as we head through, say, 8 p.m., 9 p.m., and we're closest to that center passing just to the north and west of us. We've also got a flood watch. In the past just hour, we've seen 0.32 inches of rain just north of us. That's adding up to nearly an inch just today, and we're just now in it. We're going to continue to see this rain coming down, and it's going to add up. So several different risks that we're dealing with here. I can't stress enough that you want to make sure that you have some way to get those alerts. We are under a tornado watch here across southern Mississippi, and that is until midnight tonight. So you want to make sure that you have some way to get those alerts and that you're safe. And if you know that there are vulnerable trees near some area of your home and you can stay away from that area, that is such a good idea, because those trees can really do a lot of damage. They can take lives. And of course, you don't want to be anywhere near that. So again, hurricane warning, storm surge warning, flood watch, and a tornado watch for places like Pascagoula. And right now, Mike, we're in between some of the stronger rain bands, but I do think as we head into that 7:30, 8 o'clock hour, we'll be right back in another one of those stronger bands, and we'll really see these winds picking up.
Indeed, we will. It's going to be a long night across the South, that's for sure. We take a look at where the hurricane is right now. The eye going over New Orleans as we speak. We saw a Paul shot just a moment ago. We've got calm winds as we speak. The intense storm bands have gone north of us, and so breathe a little easier for us tonight in New Orleans. But look at the intense squalls now. Slidell through Gulfport, Biloxi, and Pascagoula tonight. We've got intense storms over around Pensacola as well. Tornado warning here, Escambia in Santa Rosa County. That's for Ferry Pass and Pace. Our warning until 6:45 this evening. Another tornado warning in Mississippi headed toward Columbus. Lowndes and Noxubee County under a tornado warning. Confirmed tornado here. We are watching some very intense weather tonight. We do have a hurricane on our hands, Category 2, Hurricane Zeta making landfall with the eye going over New Orleans right now. Intense squall lines here, though. Slidell through Biloxi, Pascagoula, over through Gulf Shores, Alabama, and then through the Panhandle of Florida as well. I'll show you some of these intense squalls that we're getting. Really intense winds, by the way, as well in Slidell. Coming across I-10, Gulfport, Biloxi, and Pascagoula, all getting hit hard tonight. Tornado warning now issued in Baldwin County in Alabama. Mobile sits up to the north on the top of your end of your screen there, but storm motion here is to the north at 55 miles an hour. The tornado still sits offshore, but is going to really race to the northwest here very quickly, so you're not going to have a lot of time to react here. And I would say in Mobile, you want to quickly get to your tornado shelter. We've got a tornado now coming on shore here around Pensacola Beach, Escambia, and Santa Rosa counties under a tornado warning right now. That's going to come, we think, just to the east of Pensacola and come right through Pensacola Bay. So again, our warning till 6:45. Up to Mississippi we go. We had a confirmed tornado here. Lowndes and Noxubee County under a tornado warning. This one's going to go just to the west of Columbus, right between Starkville and Columbus along Highway 82 here. 6:45, the expiration on this. There's been a pretty good couplet on that. It's starting to weaken a little bit here, but we're going to time this out for you. A place like Bent Oak could be there around 6:49. We've got some new video to show you this evening of what's been happening with these storms. And check this out. This is in Louisiana. This, the eye wall of Zeta that came in here with really intense winds. And in any of these bands, look at the roof just get peeled right off that barn. In any of these intense bands, you could also get some tornado spin-ups. So just numerous things to keep an eye on here this evening. We think intense winds remain with us well inland tonight. Not only in Louisiana where we're hit hard tonight, not only in Mississippi, but well up through Alabama, Georgia, and the Carolinas. So we want everyone to pay attention to what's going on with this storm now through the day tomorrow. There's another look at the intense wind here in Louisiana. And power's really been going out left and right. We've got hundreds of thousands of customers now without power in Louisiana. It's actually getting close to 300,000 customers without power. The most affected counties, parishes, Jefferson and Orleans parishes right now, accounting for about 200,000 of that. Let's get you into Biloxi, Mississippi tonight. Our Jim Cantor is there, Jim, where the really intense rain bands are about to hit you and the storm surge is coming up quick.
Yes. Saw that 49 mile per hour latest wind gust here, Mike, at Biloxi. So we're not surprised that the winds are going to come up. And we'll watch these two bands because I think certainly with the first one, the water will come up a little bit more. And then obviously with what's left of the eye wall that comes through here, I think if we're going to maximize the surge, it'll happen at that point or shortly thereafter. Remember, the eye winds aren't incredibly wide. We had the Cat 2 wind in southern Louisiana there, 105, 110 miles per hour around Golden Meadows. So that's whatever's left of that is what comes up toward us here probably over the next hour or so. Again, not that bad right now. You get in between squalls and it's really not that bad. You can see the palm blowing from side to side. There are other areas around where I can see the wind a little bit stronger, which is just off the bay and through here. And right now, surge 2.9 feet. All right, so that's the total water rise that we've got for you in Bay St. Louis. So we're really watching that gauge because that's basically what's going to come this way, and they're getting into that first rain band that we talked about now. Mike, I was talking to you earlier pretty much right from the marina's edge here. Now we really can't walk out there on that post, okay, because the water is starting to come up over this walkway and through here. So it's coming up little by little. And obviously, as it comes up, we'll retreat. We've got our storm path camera basically in the base of this garage here, so we'll be able to show you what's happening down and through here. The forecast, again, 7 to 11 feet, and it's going to come up fast. I think that's what catches people off guard. That's why everybody just needs to hunker down and pretty much deal with a quiet evening at home, all right? Hopefully the wind won't won't cause you to lose power, but we're going to see power outages start to increase dramatically in Mississippi as we get into this first outer wall and then the main how fast it's going to come in here. Even if it's under 7 feet, it'll still be where I am right now and certainly into the lower level of the parking garage here at the Golden Nugget, which is where we are. We're right at the end of Biloxi, the east side of Biloxi, before you cross the bridge, the Biloxi Bay Bridge over to Ocean Springs, and it's a very low point. Lots of big waves on that bay right now, and almost all the boats in safe harbor as we speak. We'll be right back.
Welcome back as we follow Hurricane Zeta for you tonight. Why don't you take a close look at this live view from New Orleans, because what you're looking at is the eye of Hurricane Zeta. Kind of look off in the distance there. You can actually see some clearing and the edge of the cloud deck there. Isn't that something? 76 degrees with calm conditions for us in New Orleans, whereas the last hour we had winds gust over 70 miles an hour. Really incredible. I do see maybe even just a little bit of faint blue as the sun is about to set for us here in New Orleans. It just has set for us, but incredible shot for us tonight. And our Paul Goodloe is there. Boy, he really bore the brunt of some very intense winds on that northern eye wall. And Paul, night and day, just like that now.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's really, really calm. For a little while. We're starting to feel the winds a little more breezy, but it's coming from the completely opposite direction. We're getting pounded by east winds coming down Canal Street. Now they're coming down this way, so we're starting to see the backside of the eye wall come through here. So we don't expect to see as much rain coming through. Looking at the radar, it does look like there's some drier air coming in on the backside of this, which we are not too upset about. Anytime you have heavy rain, even from a summer thunderstorm, you have that risk of flooding here in New Orleans. But it's that wind which definitely has done some damage. I believe the last count was a couple of 100,000 customers statewide without power because of this hurricane. And just here in Orleans Parish, where New Orleans is, I believe we're over 90,000 customers without power. You think about that for the entire parish, just the city of New Orleans itself. Close to 400,000 people live here, so a customer is a billing point. It could be, a family of 4, it could be a family apartment of 1 person, but bottom line, you can multiply that number by easily 2, 3, 4, so probably close to 250,000 people without power right now across Orleans Parish, including here in the city of New Orleans. We're seeing a lot more people out and about walking and driving, but here's the thing, we still have some very gusty winds coming through, and they're coming from the different direction, the opposite direction here. So things have been weakened by these strong winds on the front side of Zeta. Perhaps they're still standing. They might fall over when the winds come from the other side of Zeta. So even the National Hurricane Center is urging people not to go outside during this kind of lull in the winds. We can feel them slowly increase. So we hopefully won't have as strong of a winds, but they will be gusty. There will be some rain in those as well. But we do think we've been through the worst of Zeta so far. It's so fortunate this thing is moving so fast that it's now in, and we can now start to see the backside of the system. The amazing thing is, as we head towards sunrise tomorrow, we're looking for a gorgeous day on Thursday. In fact, even we have Halloween coming up on Saturday. So those of communities that are seeing trick-or-treating, it's going to be a beautiful weather weekend, but we still have to get through the rest of tonight, and those gusty winds could still do some damage here across this part of southeast Louisiana. But it's not just a concern here. We still have impacts still going on across the rest of the Gulf Coast. Our Jim Cantori is in Biloxi, Mississippi, a city that was devastated by storm surge with Katrina, and now also a storm surge, pretty decent storm surge that headed your way. What have you been seeing so far this evening, Jim?
Yeah, Paul, it's gradually coming up. We're watching Bay St. Louis. They got a gauge there. They're at 2.9 feet at this point. So it's not one of these trends where all of a sudden it's jumping like a foot in an instant. So, that's a little bit of good news. But it's just gradually coming up here. The walkway that I was talking about and walking on earlier, now that's completely underwater. It's starting to splash over and through here, but it's nothing that's coming up rapidly. Just wanted to come and show you, it's still windy. We still got these bands that are coming in. There's one just to my west now. We've already had a 49-mile-per-hour gust at Keesler. There's going to be stronger winds with that band, and then what's left of the eye wall that you went through, Paul, when it comes north, and I think it'll bring our winds around a little bit more southerly. So we're right open here to Biloxi Bay. If you look at Biloxi and in this point down here, it's just like a peninsula. And it's right down, on the water. We're protected a little bit from the marina seawall. A lot of the boats, obviously, as you've talked about, most of them are in what they call the hurricane hole. They're upriver and out of harm's way. So again, we're just kind of waiting on these stronger bands to come on in, and obviously that water rise. And I'll never forget Katrina in my entire life. We literally went in for 10 minutes to get out of the weather, and we came back out, and the entire parking lot was underwater. I mean, we saw an epic rise. 10, 15 feet probably within a matter of minutes. So it's going to come up fast. It's what catches people off guard. It's why it's been the #1 killer ever since hurricanes have impacted people, okay? Because people just don't understand how quick the water can come in. We've got a place to retreat. When that water starts coming in, we're heading up to higher ground, and we'll show you the bottom floor of the Golden Nugget, which we do expect to go underwater in through here. All right, Mike Bettis, we got a long night ahead of us. Not just with the storm surge issues here, but also the damaging wind threat, which will extend well inland into Mississippi, into Alabama, into Georgia, and up the I-85 corridor tomorrow morning.
We're going to have extensive power outages, we think. We're dealing with severe weather as we speak. New Orleans with the extent of the northern eye wall going through Slidell, really intense storms along I-10, and we've got tornado warnings across Alabama, including in Baldwin County here, where we actually have 2 rotations, one that's offshore, one that's onshore here. Fairhope, Mobile, take shelter quickly. Tornado warnings for this cell in Santa Rosa County until 7:15 tonight, coming between, or maybe just to the west of Milton along I-10. We're back after this. We are covering Hurricane Zeta for you tonight. Made landfall as a Category 2 hurricane in southern Louisiana, now causing some big issues for us as it rolls through New Orleans, by the way, in the eye right now. Big-time storms through Slidell, Picayune along I-10, and Florida tonight. Baldwin County under a tornado warning. We actually have 2 circulations within this. Fairhope wants you to take shelter quickly here, and storms getting closer to Mobile as well. And these storms are racing. They are moving northwest at more than 50 miles an hour. You can see the rotations. One right there, tornado right here. Fairhope, we're in danger. Up toward Mobile as well. Get to your ground level of your home. Make sure you get to an interior room and stay away from windows and exterior walls. That's a really tough storm right there. Very impressive storm here, unfortunately, with the tornado coming past Ferry Pass and just to the west of Milton in Santa Rosa County here in the Panhandle, Florida. Pensacola down here to give you some perspective. This also racing off to the northwest in one of these outer bands here. Santa Rosa, including the city of Pace, under that tornado warning until 7:15 this evening. In all these locations, these storms will be moving very, very quickly, and you won't have very much time to react at all. So this is going to be an issue that we deal with through the remainder of the evening, and tornado watch continues until midnight tonight. All right, I want to get you back to the storm tonight and head back to Felicia Combs. She's in Pascagoula, Mississippi, where I-10 there, I got to tell you, really getting hit hard tonight, Felicia, and potentially even a risk for tornadoes there as well.
Yeah, that's right. A tornado watch in effect here, Mike, until midnight. So one of those things that we have to worry about. I was watching those water spouts coming onshore, those warnings that you were talking about. And man, the velocity signatures in some of these storms that we're seeing, some of those possible tornadoes, really strong. So don't let your guard down. Make sure you have some way to get those tornado warnings in the Pascagoula area, because we do have our tornado watch. I'm here, Pascagoula in southern Mississippi. Where we are, we're about 2 miles north of the actual coast, but still we are on the water. You can see behind me, this is an inlet of the Pascagoula River. Off to my left is the actual Pascagoula River, and this runs down into the Mississippi Sound. Now, this particular area, Jackson County, where we're located, no stranger to these tropical systems. Back in 2005, it was just absolutely devastated here by Hurricane Katrina. 3 years ago, Hurricane Nate, they saw significant storm surge in Jackson County, especially closer to the coast, say Beach Boulevard here in Jackson County, and we were talking up to 10 feet of storm surge there. And of course, a storm surge warning in effect for Pascagoula. The forecast 7 to 11 feet of storm surge possible, especially on those barrier islands like Horn Island. Pascagoula goes, we're going to be in this rain for hours now. We're stuck in those rain bands, and it's going to be coming down heavily at times. So certainly places that see flooding could see that, Alex, and that's something we've got to look at as we look northeast as well.
Absolutely. You know, Felicia, a lot of times people think these storms make landfall and then we're kind of done. We're going to see significant effects the overnight hours. 3 o'clock in the morning, Montgomery, 40 to 50 mile per hour gusts. Atlanta, 60 to 75 mile per hour gusts. So we're talking high-end tropical storm force wind gusts in the Atlanta metro area. That will work northward towards places like Asheville, Greenville, South Carolina, Charlotte. 11 a.m. Now we've got those 40 to 50 mile per hour gusts in Raleigh, North Carolina, eventually working up into Richmond through the early mid part of the afternoon before exiting those strongest winds out over the Atlantic. But still going to see some breezy conditions linger until the late part of Thursday. With that said, heavy rain and wind, we know a combo for trees to fall. And we also know that this part of the country has quite a bit of tree cover. It's been saturated. It's been soggy over the past few weeks. And now we add in another big dose of rain. 2 o'clock in the morning coming down to beat the band between Montgomery and 4, 5 time frame. Atlanta, just in time for your rush hour. It's going to be awfully soggy. Western North Carolina, mid to late morning when your heaviest downpours will be in your area, and then moving through parts of Virginia into the early afternoon. So heavy rain, gusty winds. I think a lot of trees are going to come down, and unfortunately, I think we're also going to be looking at quite a bit of power outages across the region. Flash flooding a concern as well. Possibility into tomorrow all across sections of interior southeastern states, even back into portions of the Mississippi Valley. Then tomorrow into early Friday, we've got the mid-Atlantic in play for the flash flooding. Some big metro areas like Washington, D.C. Look at the rainfall footprint to come. 3 to 5 inches. Area of 1 to 2 plus inches. So be careful and watch this storm, even if you're well inland.
You go from the most intense stuff you've ever seen to calm. Look at this. This is a drone shot inside the eye of Hurricane Zeta as it passes over New Orleans. Folks back out on the streets, the cars driving. Look at the birds that were stuck in the eye as well. Almost looks like a Hollywood cinematic shot, doesn't it? The palms barely rustling in a very, very light breeze. You deserve that after the lashing that you took, but next in line, Mississippi and Alabama. Let's get you to Mississippi. Biloxi in particular. Our storm tracker Jim Cantori is there, and waves of rain and storms and the storm surge coming up, Jim.
It really is, Mike. I can show you that right now as we kind of step back You remember we were at the Port Cadet Marina here, and we walked all the way to the seawall, and it hadn't started splashing over, but here it is, already about 4 to 6 inches. Watching Bay St. Louis, they're over 3 feet now, so it's on its way up, all right? And it's certainly going to continue to come up as we go through the next couple of hours and we get the storm, certainly even further to our north. I don't think we're going to get in the eye here, but we certainly will stay and get a piece of that eye wall. So gustier winds, more power outages. We're not in the worst of this yet in Biloxi or southeast Mississippi. All right, so get ready, guys. It's still coming in. What I can hear, though, are the winds aloft howling through this parking garage here behind the Golden Nugget, which is what we're going to take higher ground in, certainly as this water continues to come on in. Otherwise, again, heavy rain. Excuse me, we've had gusts to about 50 miles per hour so far at Keesler, and those gusts obviously are going to go up as well. Still some very strong winds in that eastern eye wall and what's left of it as it continues to push on off toward the north and east. Rain has been kind of on and off, if you will. It's not stopped raining, but it's at a point where sometimes you can't see very far out, but then at times like this, it's just not coming down very heavy. Still stings, though, with a 40-mile-per-hour wind. Guys, we'll keep you posted here from Biloxi as the water continues to come in. We will obviously retreat as it gets up to a point that I've pretty much deemed a time when we're getting the heck out of here, and it's going to come up real fast. All right, an area that's already dealt with this, Paul Goodlow. Paul, take us through the night. You've had a tremendous night there in New Orleans as you went through the eye wall. You could barely stand up. Then all of a sudden, just as calm. And even the air itself, doesn't it feel kind of heavy once you get into that eye?
It does, maybe because of the lack of the wind kind of keeping you cool, but yeah, it went totally still, and now we're seeing the winds from a different direction as we have debris blowing down this side of the street. It was coming this way when we were dealing with the onslaught of Zeta, and this is some of the damage. This is like a little kind of shelter from the trolley here, shattered, pretty thick glass, pretty big pieces here, and that's part of the reason why they don't want people out here in the streets. This shelter was not shattered, so you can see pretty thick glass. This one somehow has survived Zeta, but all evening long until the eye went through, winds were howling down the street this way, and now the winds are coming this way. We're starting to pick up gusty winds again. Looking at the radar, we still have some rain, but not nearly as much as the front side. But now we're going to start seeing things that were weakened by the wind coming this direction still standing, but perhaps they could fall with the wind now coming from the other direction as well. There's still some rain wrapped in there, but I think the heaviest rain is gone, which is great news because you're always concerned about flooding in the city of New Orleans. When you have the Lake Pontchartrain on one side, you have the Mississippi River on the other sides of the city here. As the city sits below sea level, they have to pump out the water. And it definitely probably was enough, or a low enough amount of rain where the city pumps could keep up with them, assuming they still had power. If the power went out, that could cause some concerns. But I think power outages, they are growing now here across Orleans Parish in the city of New Orleans. I think we're closing in on maybe 100,000 customers just here in Orleans Parish without power. I think statewide, over 300,000 customers. But that's a billing point, so it's most likely maybe 500,000 people or more in the state now without power because of what's going on with the winds here with Hurricane Zeta. It has moved in. We saw the eye coming on through for a time. The skies lightened, kind of an eerie pinkish color to the sky here, but that has changed. The sun has set. We're starting to see the cloud deck lower as well, and the gusty winds coming in through. We don't expect the winds to be as strong as they were on the front side, but there's still gusty winds capable of damage. Remember, there are things that are weakened by the front side, so these backside winds could still do some damage as we head throughout the evening hours. But tomorrow we'll see the sun come up, and the weather looks nice for the rest of the week, but we still have to get through the rest this evening. And there are other areas well to the east of here still have to get through Zeta. In fact, let's head to Gulf Shores, Alabama, and Chris Bruin is there. And Chris, I tell you what, we were there for Hurricane Sally a couple of weeks ago, and that area hit hard with storm surge, which is also an ongoing threat there with Zeta's approach.
It down. So we are not going to get in the eye here in Gulf Shores, guys, but we are going to have some intense tropical storm force gusts over the next, I would say, 3 to 5 hours. So it's go time. Winds are anywhere from 25 to 35, even getting close to 40 miles per hour, but it's dry right now. However, let's pull up the radar. I want to show you what we've got. We've got a tornado warning about 5 miles to our west. This is for parts of Baldwin County, okay? Point Clear, getting up on the east shores of Mobile Bay. You need to get into the lowest level of your home, most interior room. This is a dangerous storm, and this is what we've been talking about, the severe weather aspect of Hurricane Zeta. It's real, and certainly these cells are rotating. They have some strong signature rotation. It's something we've got to watch very closely there, just to the south of Mobile, and they're pretty much moving from the south to the north. Okay, so we got to watch out for that pretty closely. Just missing us here in Gulf Shores, but looking farther out into the ocean, I know it's night. You can't really make out the water behind me. The dunes are still probably 100 yards behind me, and then beyond that, the water. Now, water levels have risen about 1.5 feet so far here in Gulf Shores. We'll expect maybe another 2 to 3 feet as the core of the strongest winds makes it in towards coastal Alabama. Rain starting, but again, the heaviest rain will be in the next couple of hours, and we're going to get those persistent bands. We saw them in Pascagoula with Felicia saw it. We saw them in Biloxi. Those are working their way in, and at times, I'm going to have Russ kind of focus in on this fence. You'll see the wind coming. This wind is essentially bearing the brunt of the fence. You'll see it kind of wiggle every now and then. And these are only with 35-mile-per-hour winds. So imagine if we were to get up to 60 or 70 miles per hour. That's when you start to get some of those structural damages. And there's a lot of homes here, guys, that have tarps. That they're holding the roof together, and it's also trying to keep the water out, and those can easily be blown over and water will find a way in. So these people who have just repaired after Hurricane Sally are now going to have to deal with even just tropical storm force gusts, and that's strong enough, Mike, to really take over these huge piles of debris that are littered all across not only Gulf Shores, but Foley, Mobile, Point Clear, and everywhere here in Baldwin County and across southern Alabama. 6 weeks ago, still recovering, and here we go again, yet another hit.
It just seems like it has been the nonstop season. 5 landfalls there in Louisiana. We have 8 landfalls along the Gulf Coast. It's just a never-ending season. Chris, thank you so much. We're going to get back to Chris here in just a second. Want to update you on what's happening with Zeta right now. With the latest advisory that came in at the top of the hour, winds now down to 100 miles per hour after making landfall with 110. Northeast movement now at 25 miles per hour, so it's picking up speed. It's changing direction here. It has more of an easterly component to it, but big time wind and rain here. Slidell, I-10 all the way to Mobile. Some really intense storms getting up towards, say, Hattiesburg along I-59. Severe weather embedded within some of these bands of storms, including in Baldwin County, right by where Chris is tonight. He's just south. He's down here in Gulf Shores. The tornado warning is off to the north here, including in Fairhope. Different areas of rotation. We had one in here, one up in here. So please take shelter, lowest level of your home, and get to an interior room away from windows and away from exterior walls. Boy, this circulation over in Santa Rosa County in Florida has really held together here. Going in somewhat relatively low population areas, but still coming past Milton, headed up toward the Alabama and Florida state line. Santa Rosa County under that warning until 7:15 this evening. Large area under a tornado watch tonight from near New Orleans all the way up I-65 toward Monroeville, Montgomery, Alabama. It does include Pensacola and Mobile. These areas are under that risk, and there's your Torcon tonight. Not a huge risk, but it's still a risk. Torcon of 3 in the areas highlighted in red. Again, does extend all the way up towards, say, the Montgomery Metro. Want to get you to Pascagoula, Mississippi. We've got a surge threat there, wind threat, severe weather threat, and meteorologist Felicia Combs covering it all for us. Felicia.
Hey, Mike. Yeah, I think we are in that next band, that next intense band that we've been waiting for here in Pascagoula. The wind has certainly picked up. The rain is back up once again. And I'm going to tell you, I've been watching some of the lights that are around us in this parking lot, and they just flickered on and off. The lights at Brady's Seafood and Steak that were here, the restaurant that we're located at, those lights kind of flickered on and off. So I think we're going to start to see some of those power outages. I want to show you something that I was noticing. Can really tell when the wind is picking up and the rain is picking up. This is Highway 90 behind me here, and it has just been sheets of rain blowing across 90. It's definitely not a road you'd want to be out on right now, so I can't stress enough. Stay home. Don't be out and about because we're in it now, guys. In Pascagoula, this is where we're seeing kind of the worst of it, I'd say between now and about 8 p.m. Now, that's not to say we're going to be done with it after 8 p.m., but especially this particular band that we're going through, really going to see those winds picking up and gusting even higher. We're right here on an inlet of the Pascagoula River. So an inlet here off to my left is the Pascagoula River. That river runs out into the Mississippi Sound, past the barrier islands of Mississippi and Alabama, and then into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, this area under a storm surge warning, 7 to 11 feet possible, especially for those barrier islands like Dauphin Island or Horn Island, and especially for the coastal areas. Beach Boulevard here in Pascagoula, no stranger to the flooding, and that's certainly something they could be dealing with. And then, of course, we've got these winds. You can see the winds picking up now. We've got a hurricane warning because we could certainly see hurricane force wind gusts, and the problem is that's going to lead to the risk of some power outages here as well. Now, we've been keeping our eye on the actual power outages, and it's still not a ton of power outages here in southern Mississippi, but I do expect, as we continue to see these winds persisting, the ground is getting even more saturated, I expect that we are going to see those power outages continuing to that we have here. Tornadoes. We are under that tornado watch until midnight, so make sure you have some way to get those alerts. And then a flood watch. I've been watching the numbers on some of this rainfall that's coming down, and since this is going to be a very quick moving storm, rainfall, fresh water flooding might not be the biggest risk, but there's still certainly that possibility for some localized flooding. And as you can see here, the wind's coming in gusts. It's not always going to be gusting completely like this. Yeah, I'd say this is probably the best gust that we've gotten thus far. And so we had seen wind gusts up to about 50 miles per hour just north of us at the Trent Lott International Airport in the past 2 hours or so. I'd say we're going to keep an eye on those readings, and I would bet that we've seen wind gusts above 50 miles per hour at least at this point. And I would bet also within the next hour or so, Alex, we're going to see those power outages climbing here because now we're in even more of the thick of the storm. We've got one of those really hefty rain bands moving through. Of course, the eye is going to pass just to the north and west of us, and those winds are going to remain pretty elevated as we head through the next couple hours here, Alex.
Yeah, you know, honestly, the next, 12 to 18 hours are going to be especially gusty, even windy for some spots 24 hours from now. But the real key here is going to come over the short term. So again, about probably the next 12 hours, really expecting some strong damaging wind gusts that could take down trees. And so widespread power outages expected from the Gulf Coast all the way up into the southern Appalachians. So we're talking western North Carolina and upstate South Carolina. Could see some outages across eastern Tennessee, even all the way up into the mid-Atlantic. Now, we timed this out for you. Montgomery, Birmingham, you've got very early morning winds, gusting 60, 70 plus miles an hour. So here we're getting into that very strong tropical storm force wind. For Atlanta, same wind speeds coming your way just in time for the early part of the morning drive. So I think the strongest of winds for Atlanta coming between 5 and 6 a.m., but still at 7, 50-mile-an-hour gusts, an absolute possibility. That'll move into places like Asheville and Charlotte by mid to late morning. Raleigh as well, we'll be looking at that. So with the potential for a lot of falling trees, power outages, a lot of metro areas have decided to go ahead and either cancel school or just do virtual school. Atlanta, Montgomery, Asheville, North Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina, they're either off school or doing virtual learning only. So make sure you check in on the status of that school. And again, use caution. If you're out driving around, watch falling trees could be a real issue. So try not to take those wooded routes. And if you have trees around your house, think about sharing in that wealth, so to speak.
Yeah, here, Alex, look at this. Literally from the time you guys started this block, look at the surge coming in. It's starting to come in. So after we finish this, we're going to move. We're going to get up to higher ground. We already have other cars that are doing that. But you can see how high this has gotten now. It's starting to come in. We got 4 feet at Bay St. Louis. So, I mean, look at this. Just waves rolling across this road, which was just dry ground when we started about 2.5 hours ago. So just incredible how fast it comes in. This is what we're talking about. What we're going to do is move up the ramp, okay, in the parking garage. We will still show you what's happening down through here. Plus, we have a storm path camera to show you the same thing as well. But here comes the surge. It's already into Bay St. Louis. If you look at the radar, you'll see that the vestiges of the eye wall, what's east of the center there, that's what's going to bring in the maximum surge, all right? And that will traverse essentially from Slide L through Waveland, through Bay St. Louis, over through Gulfport into Biloxi. So here it comes. Perhaps one of the worst components of the storm for coastal Mississippi, the surge, and it's coming in right now.
And it has been a record hurricane season thus far. People along the northern Gulf have gotten blasted over and over again. I'm meteorologist Felicia Combs coming to you from Pascagoula, Mississippi, a place that is still recovering from the impacts of Sally. They certainly suffered some power outages, some downed trees, and I do think we're going to be seeing those power outages here as well as we are in the hurricane warning. Now, Pascagoula, Mississippi is Alabama border. We're also about 20 miles east of Biloxi, where you saw Jim Cantori before the break. Well, it's pretty good gusts. We're kind of in, I think, the heaviest band that we're going to see here in Pascagoula right now. So I would say about the next 30 minutes to an hour or so is going to be the peak of those gusty winds with this band that we're seeing. That's certainly not to say we won't see gusty winds after that, but this band that we're currently in Pascagoula is really one of the ones that's going to take a punch as that eye moves to the northwest of us. Now, I want to tell you exactly where I am. I'm on an inlet of the Pascagoula River. So where we are, we're actually about 2 miles from the coast. So we're not quite as vulnerable to that storm surge flooding as Jim Cantori, but our weather producer Sarah telling me that in Pascagoula we're starting to see that push of storm surge up to nearly 3 feet of storm surge at this point, and that is going to continue to get worse, especially as we continue to approach high tide 11 o'clock tonight. So Jim, of course, those tides are going to keep coming up. You might notice this boat behind me. I've had a couple people ask me about what's going on with the boater. We're going to talk more about that coming up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, here it is. I mean, look at this. This is literally from when we just left you guys to now, and you can see, you know, we've kind of come around the other side of the parking garage, and this whole area now is underwater. So Biloxi Bay is probably 100 yards off to my east, okay? But right now, this whole area is underwater, and that's why we moved the vehicles to higher ground in the parking garage. I can still stand in it right now, but it's just a testament to how quickly the water comes up and through here. It has not entered the garage yet, the base floor of the garage. Most people have moved their vehicles, thank goodness, because if you remember earlier on this evening, we were saying, man, there's like 20 vehicles in here. These people got to move or their cars are going to be underwater. So again, guys, we've come up right now, Bay St. Louis. Dills, where are we? 4.1 feet? 4.1, 4.2 feet, I think, at this point. But there was a nice rapid rise in that surge, and I could tell it's coming that way. If you look at the eye, if you look at east of that eye where that high reflectivity is, in other words, the reds and the oranges and the yellows, that is what's going to bring in the max surge. All right, it's already starting to come in. It's going to keep coming in, and until that goes by and the winds shift offshore, we're going to be dealing with this. All right, so that's the kind of storm surge action, and it's amazing. Just standing here, I can almost feel it kind of crawling up my leg here on the backside of my calf. That's just how quick the water comes up. So again, where we could walk out on the marina earlier and some of the, the boardwalks between the pilings, nope, not now. It's already across that road, and it's already starting to come toward the edge of the parking garage. And as you can see out here, where this road takes you around to the front of the Golden Nugget, and this is just kind of a grassy area until you can get out toward, the Biloxi Bay, which is a wash tub out there. It has now become a part here of this little peninsula area here in Biloxi. So this is storm surge, and this is why you get storm surge warnings. Do we get to the 7 to 11 feet? I hope not, okay, because we're, right now probably about a foot, maybe 1.5 feet in spots that are a little bit farther off to the east of where I am. But either way, the water is coming in essentially all along the Mississippi coast, at least up here to the Biloxi Bay Bridge. You go across the bridge, you get to Ocean Springs, you keep going, you get to Felicia over in Pascagoula, all right, and that's where she is, which she'll have to deal with all this as well. The heavier band and the water rise. So all that is moving from west to east. But it's just amazing, just kind of turning around even for a second, and poles and lights here, and I can see the lights on the Biloxi Bay Bridge, which are still lit through here, guys. So the water coming up as we speak. We've got the vehicle to higher ground. We will obviously retreat as well and get out of this way. But man, this is it, guys. This is why storm surge is the #1 killer. People think it's okay. The winds die down for a little bit because really we've had a max gust of 70 miles per hour, and the winds are come around a little bit more to the south now, so we're getting about the same wind. My hat is still on, but that doesn't mean that the water doesn't come up. So a lot of times when we don't have the hurricane warnings or you're in tropical storm warnings, doesn't mean that you won't have the storm surge. And so this is kind of case in point of why we had to add the storm surge warnings. The Hurricane Center has had to add those because a lot of people would say, hey, we're not in the hurricane warning, so we don't have to worry about it. But the water's going to go out and extend well east of the center and well east of where some of the worst weather is. But I hope you guys could see this, where these waves are literally coming in off the marina, and the marina is protected by a seawall. So these waves are now over the top of that seawall and just kind of rolling through here as we become a part of the Gulf of Mexico. So this area, again, this is the point down here in Biloxi. You've got the bay, then Deer Island, and then the Gulf of Mexico. And right now, it is all coming in to coastal Mississippi. Our Zeta coverage continues in a moment. Guys, if you joined us earlier, we were talking about how we're in the base of the Golden Nugget parking garage. Look at this. I mean, look at the water just flowing in here. This is the storm surge coming in. It's just rolling in here. It's like there's a water main break, and it's just all flooding in through here. I mean, look at the whole first floor here is now underwater. Watching these vehicles that are left out through here, and even the door which goes in to the first floor through here. There's a couple of doors down here that actually, certainly have a chance of getting a lot more water before it, all is said and done. So it continues to come up pretty rapidly. We're over 4 feet now at Bay St. Louis, and that is what's coming this way. The other thing I've noticed is a little bit of a shift in the wind. We've gone more southeasterly now to south-southeasterly. So it's just pushing the water right on shore. And what's really amazing is if you ever look at this area, you've got the marina, the seawall, then you go out to Deer Island, which can protect this area. So there's been huge waves and huge water rise that's come in through this area and now continues to encompass the south part, or the south parking lot, if you will, of the Golden Nugget. This is just amazing to me to look at this. For the most part, we got power down here. That's good. But if you look over toward that door, all right, you can see how the water is getting now even up above the sandbags. All right, so it's coming in. It's literally rising right in front of our very eyes and through here. Just incredible. Just incredible. Feel bad, obviously, for the folks that didn't get down here and get their vehicles to higher ground. I've seen some people actually come down off the second floor and drive out, which is amazing. All right, so unbelievable here with what we're dealing with. So the storm surge coming in with Zeta as we thought it would. That's going to really be the big issue here on coastal Louisiana. But we still got a heck of a wind. There goes the hat. We still got a heck of a wind with this thing that's going to move up through Mississippi, through Alabama, into Georgia during the overnight hours. And so it's not going to lie down as quick as you might. Power tonight. Get ready to deal with trees down. A lot of these leaves are still very much on the trees. We have not defoliated yet in the southeast, as some have in the northern states, because it's just been warm. We've had a couple of cool shots, and that's been about it. We haven't gone through our peak fall color, and unfortunately, a lot of leaf drop yet. So that is something that is going to not really help us. It's going to hurt us, because there's a lot of oak species in the southeast, and those are big leaves. You've seen the big oak leaves, right? And they act just like a parachute, catching all that. Look at it. Literally from the time we started talking to even right now, the water is still coming up in this parking garage. I mean, look at this. The vehicle so far not doing too good, but this is all salt water, all right? And once that salt water gets up into the electronics and trigger, and sit on the battery, you'll probably see the alarm go off in the car and the lights will begin to flash in the back. And that's how the batteries begin to discharge. But man, this is just an unbelievable sight through here. I just hope nobody's out on the roads. Some of this, once you go out past the Nugget, is where you find Highway 90. All right, and out along Highway 90 there is pretty low ground, so nobody's getting to the Biloxi Bay Bridge at this point. Nobody needs to be on 90 right now. The surge is coming in all across coastal Mississippi, and so is the stronger wind as well. Very, very strong winds out here this evening. Oh. To the lower parking garage here at the Golden Nugget. Just incredible. I mean, look at this. We have waves in a parking garage. Waves in a parking garage. This is just incredible. Just incredible to see this. And if you've been with us in the 5 minutes we've been out here, you can see how much higher the water's gotten, even on the vehicles. All right, so it's starting to come up, certainly to about midway to the door in some spots, halfway, maybe 3/4 of the way up with some of the wheels, depending on if it's a car or even a truck. It's obviously a little bit higher there, but it's coming in. I mean, guys, think about 7 to 11 feet inundation. So we haven't even hit the max surge yet. And the max surge, I think, is going to come with what's left of that eye wall, which is off toward our west. So, again, this is something I've never seen, never ever seen in my life, this kind of inundation. I've experienced it, but I wasn't outside in it when Katrina came in. That was big water. But, guys, it's bad enough when you get salt water, obviously, onto any, certainly onto any kind of structure or any kind of vehicle like we have it through here. Much more to come, guys, as Zeta's surge continues to hit coastal Mississippi hard once again. Late October. Unbelievable, this 2020 season. Unbelievable.
Your next memory is out there. It might be a small one or a giant leap. Maybe it's a memory of you alone or one.
We are tracking Hurricane Zeta for you tonight, taking a live look at Bay St. Louis. Boy, there have been power flashes left and right. There's another one as a lot of debris being thrown in the air and hitting some of the power lines here. Check that out. Rough stuff for us, no question about it, folks. Let's give you another view of Bay St. Louis and what's happening there, because the wind's now gusting over 60 miles an hour for us at this point. There's the power flashes, and now you see the lights go out just like that, and the traffic lights go out, and everything is dark. We've seen a lot of wind, a lot of power flashes. We've seen a lot of. Watch this. We get these. Look at this canopy here. Look at the thing shaking, huh? Isn't that something? Dark all around too. But just a live look tonight at what's happening for us here across the Gulf Coast. Mississippi getting hit particularly hard. Look at that thing just wavering back and forth and back and forth. We've got winds right now in Biloxi gusting to 68 miles per hour, sustained at 52. In Mobile, our wind gusts right now are to 70 miles an hour. Bogalusa 38, Hattiesburg at 29. Boy, the power outages have really gone up here in the last couple of hours. Louisiana now 446,000 customers without power. Most of those are in Jefferson and Orleans parishes right now. And then you take a look at Mississippi. Our outage is also going up pretty quickly now. 48,000, where I think it was about an hour ago. It was only about 10,000. So that number is going to go up, we think. Most of those right now in Harrison and in Hancock counties. All right, let's get you back out to coastal Mississippi. Let's take you out to Biloxi. Jim Cantori's there. Jim, this storm surge, incredible how quickly it came up. I think you might be in this for about another hour, then it might back off just as quickly.
Yeah, I don't think we've maxed out yet, Mike. I agree with you. What's changed, though, in addition to the water still coming up, is the smell of fuel. There's definitely some kind of fuel that has leaking somewhere and coming into this water. I can't believe somebody's out there driving around. That's unbelievable to me. That's really unbelievable to me that somebody's out there driving around. We keep getting power flashes from time to time where the water is coming in and out. Hopefully what he's trying to do is get over here to this higher area and get up out of the water, but there's so much water, salt water, that he's taking on right now in that truck. That's not a good situation. I'll tell you if he makes it. He made it. He made it. All right, so Brad, let's look across. You can see the vehicles that are out in this. This is all salt water. Remember this. This is the Gulf of Mexico that's come into the base parking garage of the Golden Nugget here. And as you look up even beyond that white truck, Brad, you can see how we've gotten, certainly a ton of water that's come up almost to the base of the door and even over the sandbags. All right, so amazing amount of water coming in here at this point. We've lost power from time to time in here, so if the lights go black, don't be surprised because it's happened before. But they have come back on, at least here in this parking garage. I don't know if that's an emergency backup that's causing those lights to stay on. The fact that they're obviously all above the water and so are the lines is probably one of the reasons that they're on. But I mean, seriously, Mike Bettis, Alex Wilson, I've never seen anything like this. Just to be in a parking garage where we saw, essentially dry ground here literally an hour ago, and now all of a sudden you've just got water, up to the door, midway up to the doors, almost to the top of some of the wheel wells of some of the cars out and through here. And obviously this water, given where we are, is all the way out to Highway 90, which passes in front of the Golden Nugget here. So I hope nobody's on the roads. This is not the time to move your car or anything like that, because you're just going to get yourself in harm's way. And remember what I always tell you. Once you get in harm's way and you call somebody else to come rescue you, you put them in harm's way. So think about that before you make a move, all right? Again, just as far as the eye can see, water here under the Golden Nugget in this first level. It is deemed level G is what it's called, which I would assume stands for ground. But unfortunately, the 1, 2, 3, 4 vehicles that we see down here that did not move, we'll see. We'll see how much higher the water gets. I think it's going up, Mike, as we talked about, because I think the fact that we still have that eye wall off to the west, that's usually where we get the max surge, as you know, so we're still going to see the water push up. I'm glad we retreated when we did. You can tell it comes in in a couple of waves, and that's really your only clue. After that, it just keeps coming up and coming up and coming up. It comes up fast, and now it's over 5 feet at Bay St. Louis. All right, we said this whole thing is rippling along the coastline. Let's go over to Pascagoula. Felicia Combs, how has your water risen there?
Yeah, Jim, we're starting to see that now. I've been in communication with our weather producer, Sarah, as well. We're up above 3 feet now for that storm surge for Pascagoula, approaching 3.5 feet. Of course, the forecast for the Pascagoula area, 7 to 11 feet possible. I want to show you what's going on exactly where we are. We are on an inlet of the Pascagoula River. We're starting to see some power flashes as well, so I'm going to bet that we're going to have some power outages. I don't know if you can see this behind me here, but you'll see grass, and then you'll see water, and then you'll see another line of grass, and then the inlet behind it. The inlet has started to spill out of its bank. There is a parking lot in the front of the restaurant that we're in. That parking lot completely flooded. I want to stress that we're safe. We're watching our road out. We're making sure it's not covered with water or anything like that. So we're still good here. But we are certainly seeing the impacts of that storm surge. And I will tell you, this water has risen just so quickly. And I'd say even the past 30 minutes. So I can only imagine what it looks like at the coast. Of course, we have more coverage of Zeta coming up. And a lot of places really experiencing some rough weather tonight as Zeta is making an impact once again on the northern Gulf Coast. Welcome back into our coverage. I'm meteorologist Felicia Combs in Pascagoula, Mississippi. I want to give you an update because we've really seen things kind of increasing in problems that I think we're going to be seeing in the past 30 minutes or so. We were actually, just as we got into break, this last break, off in the distance, I'm not sure how well you can see it, but you can kind of see that glow that's happening well off in the distance behind me. We saw a transponder blow. It looks like a firework almost. It lit up the entire sky. I'm not sure if we're going to see that flash again, but it's kind of been flashing, so I would be willing to bet we're having some issues from that, and I would bet at least a good portion of Pascagoula just lost power. Another thing that we're seeing here where we are, we're on an inlet of the Pascagoula River, and it is starting to come out of its bank. Now, we're still in a really safe place, but that's something we're certainly going to monitor. Chris, the storm surge possibility, we know that you hide from the wind, you run from the water. So Chris, you know, the whole northern Gulf Coast really going to have to worry about this, at least from, say, Louisiana to the western portions of the Florida Panhandle.
Yeah, and then Felicia, we got to look at what's happening in Montgomery. We got to look at what's happening in Columbus, Georgia, Birmingham, Alabama, getting into Atlanta over the next 12 hours. So, boy, is it going to be an eventful night. This storm is racing, now nearing the Mississippi state line and pushing inland from there. This is a fast-moving storm. Things slowly improving in New Orleans, but they're only going downhill here in coastal Alabama. I want to give you some updates, some of the latest information we're getting out of Mobile and here in Gulf Shores. So far, our strongest winds have been around 40 miles per hour in Gulf Shores. However, there was a 70-mile-per-hour gust at the Mobile Regional Airport, so winds much stronger. And here's the difference. The difference between Gulf Shores and Mobile, it's raining a lot heavier. And when you get that rain, you're able to transport some of those stronger winds aloft down to the ground. We've been fairly dry the last 30 minutes here in Gulf Shores, so we're right on that tail end. We got some more bands coming in. As they do, the winds will increase. So we expect 50 to 60 mile per hour gusts over the next 3 to 4 hours, and that's really going to be the core event here. Power outages still pretty good. We have a few spotty outages here in Baldwin County, but for the most of us, we still have power here across most of Gulf Shores, Foley, Orange Beach, and then starting to see some spotty activity there around Mobile. I will say, I don't know if you guys can see it on the camera, the end of this dock, okay, the water has now made it all the way there. I know you're not going to be able to see the water. It's night time. We are right on the Gulf of Mexico, but I will say the whole beach area up to the dunes is completely now covered in water. I'm starting to see the waves now crashing right to the stairs, and I can actually see it now starting to cut in and low-lying areas there of the dunes. Now, these hotels and things will be protected, but be mindful, farther off to our west, at the far end of Gulf Shores, they don't have this dune structures that you have in other parts of the area. So low-lying spots of the beach likely going to have the coastal flooding. And we also get word water taking on parts of US 90 that they're now shutting down the eastbound lanes there over Mobile Bay. So the causeway along US 90, 98 now taking on water. So we've already got about a 2 to 3 foot water rise in Mobile Bay, Jim, and that surge continuing. We've had an onshore push all day. Now, we haven't had as dramatic of a scene as you've seen there in Biloxi, but I can tell you, Jim, the surge certainly coming up here in Gulf Shores. The water now all the way up to the dunes and trying to break more erosion there on the dune line.
Yeah, we knew that, right, Chris? We knew it was coming that way, and we would continue to build through the day. But now we're in this period here, as you will be too, you know, of the maximum surge. The rate at which it's coming up has been very dramatic over the last hour, and it's going to continue to come up because we still have the vestiges of the eye wall, the eastern eye wall, that are going to come and kind of give this the final push. Our winds have come around almost due, you know, south now. And you can really feel that wind just coming up through here. And it's literally just pushing the water into this ground level of the parking garage here at the Golden Nugget. So, you know, we've lost a few of the lights now, but Brad can show you what we got going on. As you kind of look over, you can see the 4 vehicles that were left over down in this area are dealing with water. You know, it's halfway up the door to the car, to the top of the wheel wells. And if you look beyond that toward the entrance to the Golden Nugget, that one door there, you can see it's over the top of the sandbags. And guys, we're not done. It's still going to come up. It's 5.5 feet at Bay St. Louis, 5.6 I think is what Sarah Dillingham told me, and it's still going to come up as we get into that eye wall. Obviously, as long as we still have lights down here, we'll continue to show you the water here. But if Chris is already getting the water over Highway 90 where he is, we've obviously got it here in many spots across coastal Mississippi. So nobody needs to be out right now, especially on that coastal highway, as the water from Zeta continues to rise here in coastal Mississippi. Our coverage, our continued coverage, rolls on in just a moment.
Ready.